Welcome to Twisted Truths, where betrayal meets brutal payback, and where the most unexpected twists expose what people are really capable of. This story isn't just shocking, it's personal. My name is Nathan. I'm 39 years old, and for the last 8 years I was the quiet guy behind the numbers, senior procurement analyst at Tech Solutions, a company that promised loyalty and demanded reliability. For a long time I delivered both. I didn't call in sick often. I didn't slack off. I never missed a deadline even when I was pushing through migraines, the flu, or the time I broke my wrist and still typed left-handed just to finish reports. I believed in showing up, in being a man of my word. My dad was a mill worker, 33 years without missing a shift. He drilled one thing into me: son, you show up, even if it hurts. So when I got hit with that stomach virus, the kind that doesn't just knock you down but drowns you in nausea and vertigo, I felt like a failure. But I was barely holding myself upright and I couldn't keep even water down. I made the call. 3 days. That's all it was. 3 days at home. When I returned, pale and worn but determined to get caught up, I noticed my supervisor, Gregory Stone, watching me from across the office. Same cold eyes. Same smug expression that had followed me around ever since he got that corner office 2 years ago. Back then he was just another guy in the trenches with us. But once he married the COO's niece, the stars lined up. He was suddenly leadership material. When I congratulated him after his promotion, I meant it. But apparently, I didn't say it with enough enthusiasm. From then on, I was on his list. Gregory was the type to remember grudges in perfect HD. Lunch breaks became monitored. Emails had to be CC'd to him. Then came the little jabs in meetings. The subtle digs in front of other managers. I endured it all, thinking if I just kept delivering he'd back off. But the moment I got sick, he saw blood in the water. He didn't call to check in. Didn't even respond to my voicemail updates. On the day I returned, he walked past me 3 times, didn't say a word. Then at 4 p.m. he summoned me into his office. "This isn't working anymore," he said, sliding a termination letter across his desk. "Too many absences. We need people we can count on. That's all. No severance. No exit interview. No dignity." I signed the paper. I shook his hand. And I left with a cardboard box full of memories, while Gregory stood tall like he'd done the company a great favor. But I noticed something during that handshake. His wedding ring was loose. He'd lost weight. Probably stress. He mentioned the upcoming investor pitch more than once. This was his big shot. 3 major manufacturers were coming in next week. He needed that deal to seal his reputation. He wanted perfection. That was Gregory's favorite word. And that's when the idea started to bloom. They say the hardest part isn't being fired. It's realizing how little you actually mattered to the people you gave your life to. That night, I sat in my truck in the Tech parking lot, watching the sun bleed behind the skyline, and I felt small. Hollow. 8 years. I missed birthdays for that company. Worked weekends. Stepped up every time someone else dropped the ball. I built relationships with vendors that saved Tech hundreds of thousands of dollars. And it all vanished with one signature. Worse, Gregory made it humiliating. I wasn't just let go, I was shamed. Loud enough for people to hear. He called me unreliable as I packed my things. Said I was a lesson to others about what happens when you don't show up for the team. I left with my dignity barely intact and a growing fire in my chest. But when I got home, that fire turned to ash. My wife, Maya, tried to comfort me, but I saw it in her eyes, the fear. We just refinanced the house. Our daughter, Lila, was starting private school. And now I had no paycheck, no references, no pride. "I'll figure something out," I told Maya. I always do. But I didn't believe it. For 3 days I just sat on the couch, watching reruns I didn't care about, staring at job boards, feeling that familiar sting when I saw my own resume staring back at me with bland bullet points and no spark. I kept thinking, was I really that easy to discard? Gregory didn't even try to hide it. He strutted around that office like he'd done something noble. The emails kept coming from coworkers. Condolences mixed with awkward distance. "Sorry to hear, man. Wish things were different." But none of them stood up for me. Then I got a text from Paul, a guy in accounting I used to grab lunch with once a week. "Gregory said you faked sick to get a few days off before quitting. Said you were planning to leave anyway." That's when I realized Gregory wasn't just cleaning house. He was rewriting the entire story. I wasn't sick, I was lazy. I wasn't loyal, I was plotting. I wasn't fired, I abandoned the team. My stomach twisted, not from the virus this time but from rage. This wasn't just about getting let go. Gregory wanted to erase everything I'd built and leave my name poisoned in that company's memory. And he was going to sit in that corner office, wearing that loose wedding ring, eating his usual turkey sandwich at his desk, prepping for the biggest investor meeting of his career. And no one was going to question him. No one, except me. I remembered how Gregory once said, "You're only as good as your timing." He meant it as a jab when I missed a meeting because my daughter had a fever. But now it echoed differently. Timing. I wasn't going to fight this with lawyers. I was going to fight it with timing. And that's when despair started to turn into something else. They say the devil is in the details. And when you've spent years being the guy who notices the tiny things that others overlook, you start to see patterns, flaws hiding in plain sight. Gregory Stone prided himself on being composed, prepared, and precise. But what he really was predictable. Every day, like clockwork, Gregory would order his turkey club from a little place 3 blocks down, Crandall's Deli. Same sandwich, same drink, same 11:30 a.m. delivery time. He never changed it, even bragged once that consistency is the cornerstone of efficiency. I knew this because we shared an office floor for 2 years. I used to joke with him about switching up the order. He never did. That lunch sandwich was sacred. And suddenly, I knew exactly where his armor cracked. But I didn't want to rush. Revenge that's rushed is just drama. Revenge that's planned, that's poetry. So I spent the next few days in research mode. The investor meeting he had coming up? It wasn't just important, it was everything. 3 companies, Dalcom Tools, Jensen Manufacturing, and Eastridge Components. Combined, that contract would be the largest in Garotech's history, close to $15 million in recurring revenue. Gregory had been obsessing about it for months. I'd heard him muttering in the hallway, practicing his pitch, sweating over slides. It was his career-defining moment. One screw-up and the board would tear him apart. And that's when it hit me. What he did to me, firing me for being sick, I could do to him. I wasn't talking about some childish prank. I wasn't going to slash tires or break into systems or burn bridges. No, that's not how I operate. I was going to give Gregory Stone a very personal lesson in timing. The kind of food poisoning that hits right when you're standing in front of 20 executives from 3 global corporations. I remembered the way that stomach virus made me feel, helpless, humiliated, completely out of control. Not dangerous. Just inconvenient. The kind of thing that makes it impossible to function, let alone impress top-tier investors. That Friday, I drove to the other side of town and found a rundown deli with questionable hygiene ratings. The owner looked like he hadn't updated the meat fridge in a month. I ordered a turkey club, paid in cash, and watched them make it. The mayonnaise was room temperature. The lettuce wilted. The bread stiff around the edges. Nothing obviously spoiled, but not right either. Exactly what I needed. I took the sandwich home and added my own subtle touches. A few spoonfuls of mayonnaise I'd left on the counter overnight. Milk that had expired 5 days ago, just a splash. And a thin layer of egg salad I, accidentally, forgot in my warm car for 3 hours. Nothing fatal. Nothing that would get me arrested. Just a guaranteed case of gastrointestinal distress within hours. Now the delivery. I knew Gregory used a third-party delivery app for lunch, always scheduled in advance. But what if this time, it came from his wife? I bought a prepaid card and set up an account with a fake name, Beth Stone. Called the delivery service Gregory trusted. "Hi, this is Beth, Gregory Stone's wife. He works at Garotech. I want to surprise him with his favorite sandwich tomorrow before his big meeting." The rep was thrilled to help. I gave them Gregory's full office address and exact instructions. Deliver it by 11 a.m. straight to his office. The plan was set. Gregory was going to eat a ticking time bomb wrapped in deli paper. And by the time he stepped in front of those investors, his body would betray him, just like he betrayed me. The Sunday before the meeting, I could barely sleep. Not because I was nervous. No, this was something else. A kind of calm anticipation. Like the moment before a storm rolls in and you're the only one who knows it's coming. By now, every piece was in place. The sandwich, carefully tainted and sealed like nothing had happened, sat in my fridge waiting. The prepaid delivery had been confirmed. The deli had been given the exact order and instructions. And Gregory? He was probably polishing his pitch deck, rehearsing his fake smile in the mirror. I wondered if he even remembered firing me. Or if that kind of cruelty had become so routine for him it didn't even register anymore. Monday morning I called Garotech. The receptionist still recognized my voice. "Hi Nathan, everything okay?" "I'm great. Just wanted to wish Gregory luck on his big presentation." "Oh, that's kind of you," she replied, caught off guard. Please transfer me to his office. Just for a second. Gregory picked up. Nathan. Hey Greg, I said cheerful. Just wanted to thank you again for the opportunity at Garrotech. I've been reflecting a lot, and I think you were right. Boss. About what? About reliability. Health isn't an excuse. Real professionals show up. You taught me that. He exhaled, sounding smug. Well, I appreciate that. It's rare to hear someone admit that. No hard feelings, right? Of course not. In fact, I added, I wanted to send you lunch tomorrow. A small peace offering. You've got enough stress with that meeting? He hesitated, but the man's ego couldn't resist a gesture that stroked it. Well, okay. I usually get the turkey club from Crandall's. Perfect, I said. I'll take care of it. I hung up smiling, not because I was getting revenge, but because Gregory had no idea he'd just signed his own career's death warrant. That evening, I drove the sandwich across town, slid it into the delivery bag I'd picked up secondhand from an old rideshare driver, and chilled it overnight, not too cold to kill the bacteria, just enough to keep it subtle. Tuesday morning, I was parked across the street from Garrotech by 10:50 a.m. I watched the delivery guy walk through the glass doors at exactly 11 o'clock, bag in hand. 5 minutes later, he came out empty. That meant the farewell lunch was in Gregory's hands. And just like that, I waited. Tick, tick, tick. I knew the timeline. Symptoms would hit within 90 minutes. Just in time for him to walk into the boardroom and present to the biggest clients of his life, with a stomach full of betrayal. By 12:35 p.m., I got the call I'd been waiting for. It was Paul from accounting. Whispering like he was calling from a confessional booth. Dude, Gregory just threw up. Everywhere. Right on the table. In front of everyone. The Morrison guy turned green. People ran. Investors stormed out. I didn't say a word. Just let the silence stretch. They called off the meeting. It's over. The part of me that had been quiet and broken 3 days after getting fired? That part stood up and smiled. But I wasn't done yet. Gregory thought his power came from perfection. He was about to learn what happens when his body refused to follow orders. And that's a lesson no pitch deck could fix. By 1 p.m., I was parked at a small coffee shop across from Garrotech, sipping black coffee and watching the front doors. Nothing yet. Then like clockwork it happened. Gregory burst out of the revolving doors, suit jacket flapping, a hand over his mouth. He didn't even make it to the sidewalk before collapsing against the side of a parked car and dry heaving into the gutter. He looked like a man imploding. I stared through the window and for the first time in weeks I breathed freely. My phone buzzed. Paul again. Man, it's chaos. The board's in damage control. The investors left. No reschedule. Fallon Manufacturing issued a statement already. They're reassessing vendor confidence. That's corporate speak for nope. I could almost see it now. The executive suite panicking, trying to hold together a shattered illusion of professionalism while Gregory wiped vomit off his $1,000 tie. But the real punch came that evening. A LinkedIn post from someone at Morrison Industries had gone viral. Read. Flew 800 miles for a meeting. Was met with chaos, poor planning, and a presentation that ended in, well, let's just say we won't be returning to Garrotech. Over 20,000 likes. By the next morning, the local business journal picked it up. Investor disaster at Garrotech. Executive collapse during major pitch sparks industry questions. The article didn't name Gregory directly, but everyone in the industry already knew. I'd expected embarrassment, but this was humiliation on a public stage. My phone rang again that Thursday. Paul's voice was low, urgent. The board's called an emergency meeting. Gregory's been placed on administrative leave. They're investigating the incident. Trying to figure out if he was drinking. Sick. On drugs. They're even asking HR for his medical records. I almost laughed. The same man who fired me for getting sick was now being dissected for getting too sick. Gregory didn't just ruin the presentation. He nuked 3 contracts, totaling over $12 million in potential revenue. And no one wanted to touch him now, not even his family. Paul texted me later that evening. His wife's brother, the one on the board? He's distancing himself. Said he was shocked at Gregory's unprofessionalism. The irony was almost poetic. He'd fired me for being unreliable. And now the entire company was branding him the same way. That Friday the final shoe dropped. A public press release. Garrotech and Gregory Stone have mutually agreed to part ways, effective immediately. No thank you. No fanfare. Just gone. Just like I had been. But I wasn't done yet. Because what came next wasn't just about revenge. It was about restoration. 2 weeks after Gregory's spectacular implosion, I got a call I didn't expect. "Mr. Nathan Ellis?" The voice on the other end said, polished, polite. "This is Claire Wexler, interim VP at Garotech. We'd like to schedule a meeting, off the record of course." I froze. "About what?" "About returning," she said. "But not in your old role." We met at a neutral coffee shop. She brought the company's legal counsel and an HR rep. Turns out Gregory's exit had triggered a cascade of revelations. About his leadership, about how he managed people, about the toxic culture he cultivated. The board had been flooded with feedback from clients who requested me by name. "We reviewed your employment record," Claire said. "Not just your performance, but your relationships, your ability to deliver under pressure, your integrity." I said nothing. Just let her talk. "We'd like to offer you Gregory's position. Procurement supervisor. With a 20% raise, a full benefits package, and a formal apology for how your termination was handled." I took a long sip of my coffee and asked the only question that mattered. "Will I be able to set new HR policy for sick leave?" "Absolutely." I accepted on the spot. The following Monday, I walked back into Garotech, not with a box of desk supplies, but with a keycard that opened Gregory's former office. The same office where I'd once stood, humiliated, while he slid a termination letter across the desk. Now it was mine. The people who had watched me pack my box weeks ago now nodded with respect. A few whispered, "Glad you're back." But the best moment? I stood by the window in that office, looked out across the parking lot where I once sat in my truck feeling worthless, and smiled. I didn't just get even. I reclaimed everything Gregory tried to take from me. Then I went to work. My first order of business was rewriting the sick leave policy. Any employee with a legitimate illness shall be treated with dignity, empathy, and full procedural protection. I pinned it to the break room wall myself. That afternoon, I got a call from Morrison Industries. Apparently, they'd heard about the management change. Their executive VP said, "We'd still like to work with Garotech, if you are handling our account." The contract Gregory had lost? I reopened the door. In less than 6 months, we had all 3 investors back at the table. This time they left with handshakes, not disgust. But the final twist? Gregory applied for a VP position at a competitor. The hiring manager reached out to me through mutual connections. "Would you recommend him?" I replied, "Only if your brand can survive projectile vomiting during a pitch." He didn't get the job. The irony never stopped amusing me. Gregory, who once preached that health isn't an excuse, and mocked me for staying home during a legitimate illness, was now a man permanently stained by a single moment of his own. The man who called me unreliable couldn't land an interview without whispers following him. His name had become a punchline. 3 months after I took his old office, my buddy Paul sent me a screenshot. It was Gregory's new LinkedIn profile. Stripped down. No banner image. No current employer. Just a one-line bio that read, "Experienced procurement executive seeking new opportunities." The top comment? "Hope you're feeling better, Greg. Must have been one hell of a lunch." He deleted the profile a few days later. I never reached out to him. Never gloated. I didn't need to. The industry spoke for me. Clients remembered the pitch that ended in vomit. Colleagues remembered how he treated people like disposable parts. And no one forgot the collapse that cost Garotech millions. Meanwhile, I kept rising. The company didn't just bounce back, we soared. Under new leadership and with a culture that actually respected its people, Garotech landed every contract Gregory had lost and more. By the end of the fiscal year, I was promoted to Vice President of Operations. I traveled to conferences, spoke on ethics panels, became known for rebuilding a broken company not through fear, but through fairness. And every now and then I'd catch wind of Gregory's whereabouts. An entry-level job here. A failed interview there. Then finally, word that his wife had filed for divorce. "Too much stress," Paul texted me. No, Greg. It wasn't stress. It was karma. It was justice. And it all started with one sandwich. I kept the original delivery receipt taped behind my desk drawer, my private reminder that timing, empathy, and integrity aren't just corporate buzzwords. They're what separate the good leaders from the ones who get remembered, for the wrong reasons. Gregory's downfall wasn't just a win for me. It was a win for everyone he ever belittled. For every worker who got discarded for being human. For everyone who was made to feel replaceable. So no, I didn't destroy him. He just ate what he served me. In the end, truth has a way of surfacing, even if it comes twisted through pain and betrayal. As one wise voice once said, sometimes your greatest enemy was once your closest ally. If this story struck a chord with you, let us know in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe, share, and spread the word, because justice deserves to be heard.